YouTube, it's been a very long time since I made a video last. Um, been kind of caught up on doing some shit as of recently, and I'm still just kind of, getting back in the track of everything and starting up the business and everything, but not why I'm making this video today. My main focus on this video is to kind of help give an idea as to how to build yourself a preset that matches your vocals and your microphone. Now, there's going to be a lot of people who will go around trying to tell you saying, "Oh yeah, the microphone doesn't matter. It's the way you mix everything. It's the way your voice sounds. It's the way everything." No, the microphone does matter. Bring up a little reference here because I'm terrible when it comes down to this kind of shit. I'm going to use a microphone that I know a lot of people have. I know people have an Audio Technica. I normally do use the Audio Technica 2035. I don't know why, but I just find it great, and like it's great like bass when it comes down to just overall how it sounds and everything of that matter. When people go around and try to tell you that how you speak and how you record matters more than the microphone, they aren't 100% correct. And here's why. The frequency response when it comes down into microphones, it's almost like how they are EQ'd out of the box. Not all microphones will sound flat. You have to kind of keep this in mind for how your voice sounds. If your voice has a lot of low end, so let's say like this right around here is the low end, maybe around 250, 275 or so, even right around here. If you find that your bass is normally around there, you won't want to cut that out entirely like how some of these pre-made presets do. Some presets that you might want to make sure you cut it out, don't have any bass in your vocals, that's fine. But at the same time, knowing where your vocals sit, on a frequency response on your microphone helps a lot when it comes down to mixing overall. Now on the Audio Technica 2035, I do know that it has a cutoff switch on the back that you can use to cut off the low end of your vocals. That's what this dashed line is. It's where that roll off is. And I know that there are some people and even studios that I've heard of that do use that a lot on their microphones, especially if they use a 2035. In reality, usually it's better to keep it regular and flat all the way through. Now, keeping this in mind, this little boost around 10K, that's normally the reason why the Audio Technica 2035 is great for like podcasting or just overall, like raw vocals, because it's got that slight treble boost and it sounds crisp because of that. When it comes down to EQing your vocals, you don't want to boost your fucking EQ all the way up to 7.5 decibels. Sometimes it's nice to boost it just a tad to push your crisp and your sibilance and the treble of your vocals forwards just a tad. With the Audio Technica 2035, you don't really have to do that as much. Boost it like maybe 1.5 to 2 decibels higher than what they have it here. So when people go around and try to tell you that, oh, the microphone doesn't matter. Yeah, it does, because most microphones come with a frequency response. If you have a specific XLR microphone or even just a USB microphone, look it up. I will bet you fucking money that it has a frequency response to it. And you will obviously, I don't even know where I'm going with it. Either way, every microphone has a frequency response. Not all of them are just flat sound. They all come out EQ'd differently. They all come out powered differently with that EQ. Now, when it comes to building a preset for yourself and for your vocals, I personally don't start with auto-tune and all that good shit. I start with EQing. I start with finding balances and everything first, rather than just throwing effects on it right away. So what I usually like to do when it comes down to this is I first and like almost immediately I add a limiter to my vocals. No matter what I do, I always add a limiter, and I stop all that extra noise. immediately that helps just so much to just get rid of all that extra noise. Now, when it comes down to EQing, you have your low ends right here. You have your low mids that are usually around here, your mids, your high mids, which is going to be like your presence or your sibilance, as you can see. And then you have your crisp. So this, right here is your crisp, which, considering that I did swap to my Audio Technica 2035, we won't really need to touch this as much, but of course we're still going to, just to add that, put that extra little push of crisp to my vocals, but it's not going to be like it's all the way up here at 18 because, it's too much, as you can tell. We'll usually only push it to about maybe 5 or so, maybe a little more, just depending on how loud we want ourselves to be. And usually I start with a high pass and I take off all that extra low end rumble. I'm gonna put it on steep too, just because it helps to take it off to a specific point. And as you can tell, just by doing that, it helps a lot and it clears up your vocals and it doesn't add that extra rumble that a lot of people don't usually like to hear anyways. So after doing that, I'll kind of go around and I'll start playing with, where certain areas might sound weird, kind of like right there. Normally right there is where that weird frequency response is anyway, so I'm just going to turn that down just like that. Same with the mids, so I'm just going to turn it up, and normally it's right around there where it's the loudest, so I'm just going to turn that down just a tad bit too. And in this one as well, that's normally right about there, maybe right there. I'm just going to turn that down a tad too. You don't want to turn it down all the way, because if you do, it's just not going to sound right. And then these two, you want to kind of leave them alone. Sure, you can fuck around with your low mids a little bit. You get rid of that boxiness on your lows a little bit. You can obviously do that as well if you've really so pleased to. After doing that, I will add another EQ if I can do something correctly for once. Here's where I'll kind of make my boosts and everything of that sort. So right here, I am going to bring my treble up by about maybe 7.1. And you're going to hear a lot of sibilance for a little bit before I put, after I do my compression and everything of that sort. And then if I would really like to, I can dim down my low end just a little bit, just to bring that bass out of my voice. Not a whole lot, but so it's still there. Just, it's just not there as much. I do normally like to bring down my mids just a tad bit, just so, I'm not overpowering the beat. And then my low mids, I'll boost that just a tad bit. Not that much. You literally just by like not even 1 decibel. After doing that, okay, so me personally, I'm just going to say this now. I prefer personally to compress after EQ. Always. I'm not 100% sure why, but that's just always how I've done things, and that's just how I've realized how things sound better. So normally I'll keep it around, the 3-0 ratio, maybe a 3-1, 3.5, 3 to 3, like 3 to 5 maybe. I'll bring the threshold down to about maybe a 30. So right about there. And then I'll bring the gain up hella again. Maybe bring it to around 25 instead. And then bring the gain down just a tad. You don't want to over compress your vocals, because if you over compress, let's just say I brought it to like 30 to 1. And brought it down hella and then did this, that just doesn't sound very good. So we'll just keep it at 3-0. Sorry, this is very loud for a second. I apologize. That's how you properly compress a vocal. You don't want it to be too overpowering, but enough to keep you in the same region. After I do that, I do usually add fresh air to my vocals, which gives me the power to kind of boost my vocals just a tad bit more. As you can see, I added air to my high ends, and then I do like to add a little bit of mid presence as well. So after doing that, I am going to add a de-esser, and then as you can see, right around 20 is where my vocals have that S and that sibilance at, and I can bring this up just a little bit so that it's not taking out too much of my S's. And as you can see, it's taking out all the S's. And it sounds good, which is great. So as you can see, this sounds pretty good for my vocal type. Maybe I could turn this up just a little bit more, just so it's kind of cutting a little bit more. And it's not too loud. It's not overpowering. there is still some background noise, but when it comes down to having a beat in the background and everything of that sort, it's not gonna matter in the end. Okay, so here's the preset with a beat in the background. Of course, I'm probably gonna turn it down a little bit, but if you were to add your preset that you're building on top of a beat, you can kind of fuck with it and fix it a little bit. Like with this kind of beat, I don't want as much low end, so I just slid that over a little bit, and it helps a lot. And you can kind of boost the vocal a little bit, kind of get it level again. And as you can see, all the background noise that you might have been hearing without the beat, you can't hear it. It's not gonna matter overall after you have something more in your ears rather than just that sound of your vocals. So don't worry about having some extra sound in your vocals before you add the beat, because the beat's just gonna take it right out, and the only thing that you're gonna hear is your vocals in the end. After I do that, I do like to slightly expand my vocals in a way that it adds depth to my vocals. So for this one, I'm going to use a doubler. I'm going to use a doubler for stereo. I do like to use this a lot, and I just turn it down a little bit so that it's still pushing my vocals around a little bit, and I'm not having all that extra, that extra too big of a bass, too wide of a sound, if you know what I'm talking about. So I'll just keep it around right about here. So I still bouncing my vocals around, and you can hear me in both ears. Now, as you can see, it doesn't sound too bad. Maybe there's a little bit too much fresh air on here, so I'm just gonna bounce it down just a little bit, and then maybe take a little bit of that treble out as well. Just a little bit, not too much. And then I'm also gonna turn down my gain on my interface just a little bit, just so it matches to what I would have it while I'm recording. And then after doing that, I am gonna take the compressor and just boost the gain just a tad bit. There we go. Oh, yeah, that sound beat out that, I don't listen no more. Yeah, speed out that, I don't listen no more. Many lives got tracked to the core. Now, of course, the auto-tune sounds like ass right now. I'm not 100% sure why, I don't know. Either way, being able to kind of use the frequency response that your microphone already has built into it, it does help a lot when it comes down to making your own preset. And then it matters kind of what kind of beat you're using as well. Like if you're using more of like a beat that you want to have more low end in, then turn your low, you don't got to boost it or anything like that, like this. Keep it flat, or maybe dim it down just a tad bit and just cut that extra sub off. You don't need that sub. You really don't. That's just going to clash with the 808s and everything. You just need the bass of your vocals. That's all you need. And then sometimes taking it off a little bit when it, off the EQ and everything like that, it does help a little bit as well. You don't need a bunch of effects. The microphones come already, made like how they are, so that you don't have to deal with EQing as much, Of course, yeah, EQing is still needed in some spots and some aspects, but most of the time you don't need it as much. I see so many people, especially on some of the fucking old presets that I used to use, I've seen some presets have their treble all the way the fuck up, like this, or even like all the way right about here. You don't need all of that. Just turn it up just a little bit, and then, let all of the other VSTs do the work for you. All you need is just a good, crisp set for an EQ, and you're good to go. You don't need all that shit, Overall, I know that this was kind of a shitty video, and I'm sorry. But, considering that I've had quite a lot of people join my Discord recently looking for presets, I am going to start making my own presets and everything of that matter. I'm going to start trying to copy and match and mimic other artists to try to, get an idea of let's say I wanted to make a Hey Guapo kind of preset. I will probably do that in the future. If you guys do want to see a certain preset get made, let me know in the comments below, and I will try my hardest to get to that. Or as well as, when it comes down to communicating with me and communicating with other artists even, don't ever hesitate to join the Discord either. There's a bunch of musicians in here. It's kind of a dead Discord server, and I do have a lot of people that still do join every once in a while. Every once in a while, I'll get a couple people who join in one day, but there are about 70 people in this Discord already. And if you ever had questions or anything of that sort, everyone in here are all super cool people. There's a lot of people in here that work with bigger artists, even that are friends with bigger artists. Everyone is more than welcome. It's like a family in here. It's a big family. When you do go to join, I will have to accept you, unfortunately. But I approve literally just about everyone. It's very unlikely that I'll reject you. I have it like this at the moment because I'm still slowly trying to rebuild the server. I had a lot of issues with it in the past and I'm trying to fix that. So to fix, just to kind of stop as many people from just coming in and not being able to get the correct roles as they need, I have, the requests going in as to like why the person joins. If I were to go in there and look and see like why he wanted to join, I will give you the roles by itself and do it manually for now until I can get this little roles area filled up and all that good stuff. Overall, I do hope that this video kind of helped. I know that it's a kind of a short one and it was a little bit shitty at first and it's still kind of shitty. So if you stayed, I appreciate you hella. But overall, expect to see a little bit more coming from me soon. I do have a new song coming out on the 6th of June, this Friday. So if you guys are interested in dabbling in that, go ahead and pre-save. Link is in the bio if you would like to pre-save. Overall, I hope you guys have a blessed day. Thanks for watching all the way through if you did. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye-bye.